By the time Miles Calder saw the white SUV angled half off the road, the storm had already turned the back highway into a silver blur. He was not supposed to be out that late. His 8-year-old daughter, Hazel, was wrapped in a blanket in the passenger seat of his old pickup, half asleep after he picked her up from his sister's house. The safer route had been closed by fallen trees, so Miles had taken Miller Road, the one road he hated during heavy rain. Then his headlights caught the SUV. It sat near the broken edge of the shoulder, hazard lights blinking weakly through sheets of rain. Beyond it, the creek had swollen over the ditch, rushing fast and brown beneath the bridge. Miles slowed. Hazel sat up. "Dad?" He did not answer right away. He looked at the water, then at the driver's side window. A woman was inside, pressing one hand against the glass. Miles pulled over. "Stay buckled," he told Hazel. "But—" "Hazel, please." That one word made her quiet. Miles stepped into the storm and felt the wind shove at his chest. Cold rain hit his face so hard he had to blink through it. He reached the SUV and saw the woman inside clearly for the first time. She was in her early 30s, soaked through, with dark blonde hair stuck to her cheeks and a thin cut near her temple. Her coat was expensive, but torn at one sleeve. Her eyes were not helpless. They were sharp, frightened, and exhausted all at once. "The door is jammed," she said through the cracked window. Miles checked the frame. The front tire had sunk deep into mud, twisting the body against a bent roadside marker. "You need to climb across," he said. "Passenger side." She glanced down. "The water's coming in. I see it. My phone died. Mine barely has signal." She swallowed, looking past him into the darkness, as if something behind the rain scared her more than the flood. Miles noticed it, but there was no time to ask. He ran around, opened the passenger door with a hard pull, and braced himself against the wind. She crawled across the seat, shaking badly. For a second, her fingers slipped from the doorframe. Miles caught her wrist. Her hand was freezing. "I've got you," he said. She looked straight at him, and something passed between them that neither of them had room to understand yet. Not romance, not trust, just the beginning of it. Then the mud shifted under her foot. She fell forward into him, and Miles pulled her tight against his chest before she could drop toward the ditch. She gasped once, quiet and controlled, but her fingers gripped the back of his jacket like she had been holding herself together for too long. From the pickup, Hazel's flashlight trembled. "Dad!" she called. "We're okay," Miles shouted back, though he was not sure they were. He helped the woman into the back seat of the pickup. Hazel immediately handed her the blanket without being told. The woman stared at it. "Thank you," she whispered. Hazel nodded. "You're bleeding." The woman touched her temple, then forced a small smile. "I've had worse meetings." Miles looked at her in the rearview mirror. "Meetings?" She went still. "Forget I said that." That was the first strange thing. The second came when he put the truck in drive and saw headlights appear far behind them on the empty road. A black sedan slowed near the stranded SUV, but did not stop to help. Miles watched it in the mirror. The woman did too. Her face lost color. "Do you know them?" he asked. "No." It was too fast. Too clean. A lie from someone used to speaking carefully. Miles did not push. He had Hazel with him, and the storm was getting worse. "My place is 10 minutes from here," he said. "You can dry off, call whoever you need." "No hospital," she said quickly. Miles glanced back again. "You hit your head." "I said no hospital." Her voice was not rude. It was scared. Hazel looked between them. "Dad fixes people too, not like doctors, but he knows what to do." That softened something in the woman's face. Miles exhaled. "I'm not a doctor. I'm a mechanic who keeps a first aid kit because my kid thinks every tree is a climbing wall." Hazel frowned. "One time." Despite the storm, the woman almost laughed. Almost. When they reached the small house behind Calder Auto Repair, Miles parked near the garage and hurried them inside. The place was warm, simple, and lived in. Hazel's drawings covered the fridge. A stack of unpaid bills sat near a coffee mug. A half-fixed radio rested on the kitchen counter. The woman noticed all of it, but not with judgment. With sadness. Miles gave her dry clothes from his late wife's storage box, then immediately regretted it when he saw her face change. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I didn't mean to." "You didn't do anything." But the room had changed. Hazel went to make tea because she believed tea fixed emergencies. Miles cleaned the small cut near the woman's temple. Up close, he noticed how steady she tried to be, how she looked at the exits, how her phone screen was cracked but still showed a faint lock screen notification before dying completely. Arden Board emergency vote, 10:30 p.m. Miles looked away before she caught him reading. But she caught him anyway. "My name is Noel," she said. Miles waited. Noel Gray. Another careful lie. Outside, thunder rolled over the roof. Then someone knocked on the garage door. 3 slow knocks. Miles turned toward the sound. Noel's hand tightened around the teacup. Hazel whispered, "Dad, nobody comes here in storms." Miles stepped between them and the door. Miles did not move for 3 seconds. The knocking came again. Not louder, not aggressive. That somehow made it worse. He looked toward the kitchen window, but the rain had turned the glass black. All he could see was his own reflection standing in the middle of the room, one hand still holding the first aid gauze, his daughter behind him, and Noelle sitting at his table like she had brought a whole other life into his house. "Stay here," he said. Noelle stood too quickly. "Don't open it." Miles turned back to her. "Then tell me who it is." Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Hazel's voice was small. "Dad?" That settled it for him. He reached into the drawer, pulled out the heavy garage flashlight, and walked through the side door into the repair bay. The garage smelled like oil, wet concrete, and old heat. Rain hammered the metal roof. The knock came a third time, from the large rolling door. Miles clicked the flashlight on. "Shop's closed," he called. A man's voice answered from outside, calm, professional. "We're looking for someone who may have been in an accident." Miles felt Noelle behind him before he heard her. She had followed him in, wrapped in his late wife's gray sweatshirt, barefoot on the cold floor. Her eyes begged him not to answer. Miles looked at her, then at the door. "Call emergency services." "We tried," the man said. "Lines are jammed. We only want to make sure she's safe." Noelle whispered. "They work for the board." Miles frowned. "What board?" She closed her eyes, like the truth hurt more than the cut on her head. Arden Global. Miles knew the name. Everyone in town did. Arden owned half the commercial properties near the interstate, funded the hospital wing, and had recently announced plans for a distribution center that would shut down 3 local repair shops with 1 corporate service contract, including his. He stared at her. "Noelle Arden," she said quietly. "That's my real name." For a moment, Miles felt foolish. Not because she had money, because he had let himself believe the storm was the biggest thing happening tonight. Outside, the man said, "Miss Arden, we know you're in there." Hazel appeared at the kitchen doorway, blanket clutched to her chest. Miles lowered his voice. "Hazel, go back inside." Noelle looked at the little girl and something in her face broke open. "I'm sorry. I should never have come here." "You didn't come here," Miles said. "I brought you." "That makes it worse." He studied her then, really studied her. The expensive coat, the careful words, the fear that did not match a rich woman hiding from bad weather. "What did you do?" he asked. Noelle's eyes met his. "I refused to sign." "Sign what?" "A closure package. They want to force through a sale tonight before the storm delays the inspection reports." They said smaller local businesses were already finished, so it didn't matter how ugly the paperwork looked. Miles felt his jaw tighten. His shop, the diner across town, the tire place owned by old Mr. Bell. Real people reduced to a line item. "And you stopped them?" "I tried." Another knock. Miles walked closer to the door, but did not open it. "She's hurt. She's safe. Leave your number." "Mr. Calder," the man outside said. Miles froze. Noelle inhaled sharply. The man continued. "This doesn't concern you." That was a mistake. Miles had spent years teaching himself not to react to men who spoke like that. Men from banks, insurance offices, property firms, men who looked at his worn hands and assumed his silence meant weakness. He looked back at Noelle. "Do you have proof?" "My laptop was in the SUV. The one sinking by the creek?" She nodded. "And that's why they stopped there first." "Yes." Miles rubbed a hand over his mouth. The smart choice was simple. Keep Hazel safe. Let rich people fight rich people. Stay out of a story that could crush him. Then Hazel stepped closer and said, "Dad, if they're doing something wrong, we can't just let them." Miles looked at his daughter. She sounded like her mother. That hurt. Noelle seemed to notice. Her voice softened. "Miles, I'm not asking you to save my company." "Good," he said, "because I wouldn't know how. I'm asking you to help me get back what proves they lied." He gave a short, humorless breath. "In a flood." "In a flood," she said. For the first time, she did not hide how scared she was. The garage went quiet except for the rain. Miles should have said no. Instead, he grabbed his keys. Hazel's eyes widened. "Dad, you're staying here with Mrs. Vance next door," he said. "I'm calling her now." Noelle stepped closer. "Miles, I can't let you risk." He looked at her, close enough now to see rainwater still caught in her lashes. "You don't let me do anything," he said quietly. "I choose." That landed between them with more warmth than either expected. Noelle's breath shook. "Why?" Miles glanced toward the repair bay wall, where a photo of his wife still hung above the workbench. "Because my daughter is watching what kind of man I become when things get hard." Outside, the black sedan's headlights swept across the garage windows. Miles killed the lights. Noelle stood beside him in the dark, shoulder almost touching his. And for one brief second, before the night pulled them back into danger, neither of them moved away. Mrs. Vance arrived in a yellow raincoat, hair in rollers, carrying the kind of calm that came from raising 4 boys and surviving 2 husbands. She took one look at Hazel, then at Miles, then at Noelle standing barefoot in the garage. "Storm brings out strange company," she said. Miles gave her Hazel's overnight bag. "Can you keep her until I call?" Mrs. Vance did not ask questions. She only looked at Hazel. "Come on, sweetheart. We'll make cocoa and pretend I don't burn toast." Hazel hugged Miles hard before leaving. "Be careful," she whispered. "I will." "No, really careful." He kissed the top of her head. Really careful. When the side door closed, the house felt colder. Miles and Noelle drove back toward Miller Road in silence. The storm had softened slightly, but the road was still slick and broken in places. Noelle sat beside him, hands clenched in the sleeves of the borrowed sweatshirt. "You don't have to trust me," she said. Miles kept his eyes on the road. "I don't." Her face fell. "I trust what I saw," he added. "You were scared, not guilty." Noelle looked out the window. "My father built Arden Global from nothing," she said. "After he died, everyone told me leadership meant being harder than everyone else, cleaner, colder. They called it strength." "And you believed them?" "For a while," she swallowed, "until I started reading the reports they buried." Miles glanced at her. "My name was on decisions I didn't understand," she continued. "Families losing leases, small businesses pressured into selling, repairs delayed on properties people still lived in. I thought being kind made me weak." Miles's voice softened. "Kindness isn't weak. It just costs more." Noelle looked at him then, and something honest moved between them. At the creek, the SUV was lower than before, tilted hard toward the rushing water. The black sedan was parked nearby, empty now. Miles killed his headlights before they reached the bend. "We do this fast," he said. They moved through the rain together. Miles tied a tow strap around his waist and handed Noelle the other end. "If I slip, you pull. I'm not strong enough." "You don't have to be strong. Just don't let go." She nodded. The SUV groaned when Miles opened the rear door. Water surged around his boots. He leaned inside, searching beneath the seats while Noelle held the strap with both hands, rain running down her face. Then voices cut through the storm. "Miss Arden?" Noelle froze. 2 men stepped from the trees near the road. One held a phone. The other carried her laptop bag. Miles saw it at the same time she did. The man with the bag said, "This is company property." Noelle's fear changed. It did not disappear. It hardened into something steadier. "No," she said. "That is evidence." The man smiled thinly. "You're confused. You've had an accident." Miles climbed out of the SUV, soaked and breathing hard. "She sounds pretty clear to me." "This is private business, Mr. Calder." Miles looked at Noelle. "Record." She pulled his phone from his jacket pocket and started filming. The men hesitated. Noelle stepped forward, still in borrowed clothes, muddy and bruised, nothing like the polished woman they expected to control. "My name is Noelle Arden," she said, voice trembling but firm. "I am the controlling shareholder of Arden Global. You are in possession of files connected to an illegal board vote, falsified inspection records, and forced acquisition pressure against local businesses." The man's expression changed. Not fear exactly. Calculation. Miles noticed the laptop bag lower slightly in his hand. Sirens appeared in the distance, blue and red flashing through the rain. Mrs. Vance had called the sheriff anyway, because of course she had. By dawn, the storm had passed. Noelle sat in the sheriff's office wrapped in a dry blanket, giving her statement. Miles sat across the room with Hazel asleep against his side. His boots were ruined. His truck smelled like creek water. His hands ached. But his daughter was safe. That was enough. At 9:40 a.m., Noelle walked out of the interview room. Her hair was still damp, her face tired, but she stood differently now. "I suspended the vote," she said, "and the inspection reports are going to the state attorney." Miles nodded. "Good. There's more." She took a breath. "Arden is ending the acquisition plan. The town businesses will keep their leases, real ones, fair terms." Miles looked down, absorbing it. Noelle stepped closer. "And your shop? I'd like to hire you." He almost laughed. "To fix your SUV? To consult on the new service program. Local mechanics, real contracts, no corporate replacement model." Miles studied her carefully. "Don't do it because you feel guilty." "I'm not." Her eyes softened. "I'm doing it because you were right. Somebody should." Hazel woke just enough to mumble, "Dad saved her." Noelle smiled. "He did." Miles looked at Noelle, and for the first time the space between them felt quiet instead of dangerous. Weeks later, Calder Auto Repair had a new sign in the window. Community service partner. Not flashy, not life-changing in one magic moment, just honest work, protected. Noelle visited on a Friday evening with coffee, no security, no polished speech. Hazel ran to show her a drawing of the storm, except in the picture, the rain had turned into stars. Miles stood beside Noelle under the garage lights. "You didn't have to come back," he said. She looked at him, smiling softly. "Yes," she said, "I did." Outside, the last light of sunset touched the wet pavement gold. And for once, Miles did not feel like he was surviving the storm. He felt like something warm had finally found its way home.